Hey everyone, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking some fascinating source material that explores a pretty radical framework for the universe's origins. It's called the NKE framework, and it completely flips the script on the traditional theory of everything. Instead of the usual narratives we're used to, it challenges us to look at the raw, emergent mechanics of reality itself.
So what if there was no Big Bang? And taking it a step further, what if there's no metaphysical protector watching over us? This provocative question really kicks off our journey. It replaces traditional cosmology with this idea of continuous emergence. I mean, most of us grew up with the idea of a singular massive explosion starting it all, right? Or maybe a guiding hand shaping our destiny. But what if, according to this theory, both of those ideas are fundamental misunderstandings of how complexity actually arises?
Now you might be thinking, we can just math our way out of this. But according to the framework, a purely mathematical proof for the universe's origins is actually impossible. Thanks to Gödel's incompleteness theorems, we know that any sufficiently complex system contains truths that literally cannot be proven within the system itself. So no calculating our way to a theory of everything. Instead, we've got to play detective. We have to gather what's called convergent evidence. That means looking across cosmology, quantum physics, and biology to find deep invariant patterns that all point toward a single underlying truth.
Section 1. The Search for the World Formula.
The source material draws a really sharp divide in human mindsets here. It argues that roughly 99% of people instinctively lean toward metaphysical explanations. And why? Because they offer emotional safety, a protector. But finding the real-world formula, it claims, requires the mindset of the 1%. It demands a willingness to accept that absolutely everything emerges from a completely unguided generative principle.
Section 2. The Busfo process.
All right, let's define some core vocabulary. NKEH stands for a German concept that roughly translates to Nothing-Crust-Something. It basically represents how reality builds from the void through pure chance. And right at the heart of this is the Busfo process. Think of this as the ultimate generative principle. It acts as the absolute interface between pre-physics and physics. It's binary, it's infinitely fast, infinitely fine, and it's happening everywhere all at once. Imagine an unguided, omnipresent rolling of the dice that forms the invisible lattice of our entire reality.
So instead of a singular Big Bang, this framework actually proposes the small bang theory. It pictures the universe as dynamically breathing soap bubbles of space. It's a model of continuous emergence. Space essentially segments itself into bubbles roughly 4 light-years wide. And fun fact, that perfectly matches the distance from our Sun to Alpha Centauri. Inside these bubbles, solar systems locally emerge and slowly rotate. Some areas build up structure, while others dissolve it. It creates a universe that practically breathes over billions of years, with absolutely zero preferred global direction or center.
Section 3. Stages of emergence.
We can actually stack these concepts step by step to see how pure binary chance first yields time and then space itself. Down in stage 0, we have the Busfo process, pure pre-physics. But the very moment a difference persists, a before and an after, stage 1 emerges. This is the birth of proto-time and proto-causality, because, well, you literally can't have cause and effect without a difference in state. Then, as these differences become anchored, stage 2 emerges, and three-dimensional space itself is formed.
Continuing up the ladder, those spatial differences start stabilizing into quantum probabilities. The law of large numbers takes all that unguided chance and smooths it out into predictable quantum fields in stage 3. Those then lock into the elementary particles and fundamental forces of stage 4. As things get more and more complex, atoms form, chemistry is born in stage 5, and the cosmic structures we just talked about, those 4 light-year soap bubbles, take shape in stage 6.
Finally, the universe's structure reaches a level of complexity where biological life and human consciousness emerge totally organically. Within those solar systems, planets cool and geology forms in stage 7. If the conditions are just right, the incredible metabolic complexity of biological evolution kicks off in stage 8. And ultimately, in stage 9, we get consciousness, self-reflection, and culture. The framework even points out that an advanced AI could eventually replicate this emergence of consciousness if given the right integrated complexity. It's like a giant puzzle where everything is connected in one unbroken chain of emergence.
Section 4. No higher power. Because this framework builds the universe from unguided chance up into strict physical laws, the source material argues that a metaphysical protector logically just cannot exist within the system.
Think about it for a second. A physical phenomenon doesn't decide to follow gravity, it just does. It literally has no choice. And if the very bottom layer of reality is just unguided rolling dice, there is absolutely no room in the system for an external entity to suddenly pause the laws of physics and intervene. People so often accept that the universe runs on physics, but still hope a higher power will step in during emotional moments. The NKE framework argues that this is a total logical contradiction.
This brings up a super fascinating contrast with Albert Camus' absurdism. While Camus looked at a universe without a creator and essentially declared it meaningless, requiring tragic rebellion, this framework sees something entirely different. According to the source material, the universe isn't absurd at all. It's actually deeply structured through emergence. So you don't have to rebel against some meaningless void. Instead, you can constructively explore an understandable and beautifully complex system.
There's a modified Goethe poem that perfectly captures the emotional courage required to face this kind of reality without comforting illusions. Honestly, stepping away from the idea of a universal protector is daunting. It means accepting total responsibility for our lives and our understanding. It really takes a certain kind of bravery to look at the raw mechanics of the universe and find beauty in it, rather than fear.
Section 5. A gold-backed worldview.
Now we get to the KLAS life model. This proposes a way to find emotional, financial, and social maturity without relying on any sort of metaphysical safety net. According to the framework, to compensate for the absence of a protector, you have to build incredible internal stability. This means regulating your emotions so you don't just panic in the face of uncertainty. It also means building financial autonomy so you aren't trapped by fear, and fostering social maturity so you can engage with communities without giving up your critical thinking.
A huge part of this maturity involves really understanding our own biology. We have to use our neocortex to consciously navigate the mismatch between our ancient evolutionary instincts and our modern world of abundance. For millions of years, our reptilian brains were programmed for scarcity and danger, right? But today, we live in a world overflowing with resources and completely different social triggers. If we just blindly follow our ancient instincts, we end up miserable or addicted. So the NSK worldview asks us to use our neocortex to understand these impulses, accept them, but then consciously direct them toward true self-determined fulfillment.
The source material makes a pretty bold comparison here. It likens traditional religious beliefs to fiat paper money, suggesting they rely on authority and can even suffer from inflation when narratives contradict. In contrast, it positions its own NSK worldview as a gold-backed currency. It argues that its narrative is fully anchored in rigorously verifiable scientific reality. The idea is that anyone who wants to dig deeper can instantly cash in that narrative for rigorous, logical, and deeply detailed scientific explanations.
I'll leave you with this final thought. Are you ready to trade the comfort of an illusionary protector for the complex, beautiful truth of continuous emergence? Which lens will you choose to view reality through? Do you find meaning in traditional, guided narratives? Or are you ready to explore the radical complexity of a universe that literally builds itself, step by step, from the ground up? Ultimately, the choice of how to see the world is entirely yours.